Who was the worst student in your high school, and what did they do that was so bad? Not me, but my daughter and her female friends in ninth grade. There was a boy who was disturbed who was making threats to the girls in his classes. Things like he was going to strangle them, bait them, knife them, all sorts of things. The girls told me he had photos of unalive animals he'd unalive, like kittens or a dog. I don't remember the specifics. Anyway, for whatever reason, my daughter felt like telling me about it for the first time well into the school year, like in November or so. I had no idea this was going on until then. I called the teacher first, who was a man, and he was afraid of this kid. Teacher said to call the principal and gave me his number. Principal said, and I quote, "Lady, I have 1,200 students to deal with on a daily basis. I can't be worried about whether your daughter is safe at school." Which was the wrong thing to say. BC, it obviously pissed me off. He said that he put this kid and my daughter alone in a room and told them to essentially kiss and make up. Called the superintendent next, who was incredibly bowled over by the incompetence of the principal. He told me to call the police. Which was too late because I had already taken my daughter and 3 of her friends to the police to make reports and file for a restraining order. The next day the principal called to apologize, from the phone in the superintendent's office. The kid was removed from the classes with all of these girls, which was next to impossible. And less than a week was removed from the school. I think my daughter said that he's in prison now, bullied other kids mercilessly. Stole cigarettes and alcohol from shops, to sell to other kids for cash he'd used to buy weed. Him and his crackbag mates. A few years after high school, him and 2 of his closest mates were hooning in their crap box on the highway, playing chicken. It was nighttime and they had their lights turned off, and they were driving on the wrong side of the road with the intent to make other people flinch and dodge before they had to. Other driver didn't even know they were there and just drove a straight path. So because of that, the other driver obviously didn't dodge or deviate, forcing them to flinch, and they dodged off the side of a road, right into a huge gum tree. All 3 killed instantly. 140 plus kmph impact on a hardwood tree. Small rural area, so the whole town grieved over the tragic loss of 3 young lives. That single kid who grew up around them knew better than to call it a tragedy. Bogan crap bags. Glad the other driver didn't see them and suffer their fate. Gladder that they're gone. Swerved off a residential road at 50 miles per hour to try and run down one of the kids he bullied because he thought doing so would impress the girls he had riding in the car with him. Instead plowed into a brick wall at 50 miles per hour, and because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt because doing so is for P-word cowards, an exact quote from him according to later testimony, he went through the windscreen, soared across the front garden of the house whose wall he hit the front wall of the house and turned from a full human being into paste. The girl in the front passenger seat had every bone from her midsection down irreparably shattered because she had her feet up on the dashboard and is in a wheelchair. The girl in the back passenger seat cracked open her skull on the seat in front of her, was in a coma for like 2 years and has permanent brain damage. A-hole ruined 2 people's lives because he thought vehicular manslaughter would land him a threesome. This kid was a few years younger than me. He clearly has some issues. They put all the troublesome kids in the theater department with us, and so we got to see a lot of his shit firsthand. He would just destroy things. Like he would rip wooden panels off the side of the stage if you didn't stop him. After I graduated, he came to school with a gun in his backpack and a hit list. No one was hurt, thank God. He posted about it on Facebook, and if I remember correctly, someone reported it, and he was met by cops as soon as he walked into the school. The worst kid in middle school was unfortunately a bit obsessed with me. He would walk up behind me and touch my hair. It was awful. He kept writing me love notes and begging me to give him a chance. Summer break hit, and the next year he'd forgotten about me. He was expelled for looking up Pornhub in the computer lab. Before that though, we were in the same standardized testing classroom, and he got suspended for getting off and, according to the girl next to him, self-harming with a pair of safety scissors. The worst was probably a group of lads that were known bullies. They were vile to anyone who did fit what they deemed attractive, despite being utter munter themselves. Unfortunately, they targeted me. I was their main target the second I started high school. They were the year above me and I had to be homeschooled because of them. They would kick me, punch me, spit at me, rip up my workbooks, kick footballs at my face, shout foul stuff, and the worst, and the thing that forced me into being homeschooled, was they pushed me down a set of concrete stairs. I knew it was caught on CCTV, but the school couldn't find that 2 minutes bit but found the footage from the entire rest of the day. The ringleader, Ashley, was the worst. I went home that day with blood covering my white blouse from a nosebleed and split lip, had bruises all down my back where he'd kicked me at the bottom of the stairs and from falling down the stairs, and a black eye. Ashley found it hilarious and the school stood by his side. It wasn't until I threatened to go to the police when the school magically found that 2-minute bit of CCTV and admitted he was in the wrong and gave me the most pathetic apology I've ever heard. He got a week of isolation. I took it further. Well, my parents did, and the school ended up being found at fault for blaming me and not dealing with the bullying from the start. They had 63 complaints from the 2.5 years I was there and did nothing. They ended up having to pay for my homeschooling tutors and deal with and process all my schoolwork until I finished at 16. Ashley ended up killing himself by driving way too fast on his motorbike down a dual carriageway and hitting a tree. There was a massive remembrance thing for him, but I was just glad he was dead. He could have easily killed me that day. I'll never ever forgive him, his gang of dipshits, or the school for what I went through. Even now at 27, I'm scared to go near men alone other than my partner.